My name is David Bennett. I live at 4115 Little River Road in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And this is the portrait of my great-great-aunt. Her name is Nancy Elizabeth Hickman, otherwise known as Aunt Sissy. She was born in 1868 in a little community plantation called Hickman's Branch, right across the state line in North Carolina. She died in 1878 of a fever. And it depends on who's telling the story, whether it's scarlet fever, romantic fever, or whatever. It's just always been she died of a fever. Just before she died, according to family stories, during the fever she would scream and holler for her mother, which was my great-great-grandmother, Nancy Marlowe Hickman. And every time my great-great-grandmother would go to her and tell her, I'm here, she didn't recognize her. Aunt Sissy died, as I said, in 1878 and was buried in the family plot at Hickman Branch. Around that time is when this picture appeared in the family. No one really knows where it came from, what was going on. My great-grandmother, who was Sissy's sister, told the story that she remembered as a little girl a traveling photographer coming around the time of Sissy's death, taking pictures of different people in the community, and then all of a sudden after that is where a lot of the other family pictures just pop up. Okay. After Sissy died, the picture stayed in the family. When my great-great-grandmother died, the picture passed then to my great-grandmother, Iretta Hickman Long, otherwise known as Red. And once again, there were strange things always occurred around the picture within the family. And the joke always was, well, Aunt Sissy did it, Aunt Sissy did it. When my great-grandmother passed away in 1966, the picture then passed to my grandmother, Beulah Bennett. And it hung in her dining room, and once again, everyone kept talking about Sissy. Later on, the picture was given to my uncle, who had built a house in Wilmington and needed family pictures to go up the staircase, and the picture hung at the top of the stairs until around 1986-87, which is when my grandmother got the picture and gave it to me. The picture stayed in storage at my parents', hanging on a wall, until 1995, when I graduated from college, got my first job, and moved here into Myrtle Beach. I brought the picture with me because it is a very nice picture in the original frame, and I thought I'll hang it on my wall. Well, after going around looking, trying to find a spot for the picture around my new apartment, I couldn't find a space where it would fit. So I looked at the picture and just jokingly said, all right, Aunt Sissy, I'm going to have to pack you away. I don't have any place to hang you. So I put the picture on the floor, leaned it against the wall, and then later that night I went to bed. Sometime in the middle of the night, I was awakened by something or somebody doing this, hitting my arm. When I rolled over and looked, there was just a blur or a flash went out of the room. And I remember laying there thinking, oh my gosh, is somebody here? Is somebody broken in or what? Eventually, I got up, looked around, all the doors were locked, everything was fine, and I just chalked it up to being, oh, it was just a dream, and I went back to bed. The next morning, whenever I actually got up and got ready to take my shower, I pulled my shirt off and I noticed there was a bruise right on my arm at the exact spot where I thought I dreamed somebody hit me. After that, I immediately looked at the picture and figured out Sissy must have done this, and I found a spot for her on the wall and hung the picture up, and after that I really didn't have any other major incidents the 5 years I lived there. There were a couple little things. One involved me one morning when I was making a sandwich to take to work for lunch. My bedroom was just off of the kitchen, and while I was making my sandwich I heard a click, and it was like the doorknob clicking, and I noticed my bedroom door sliding open, and about halfway through I yelled, "Sissy, stop it." And when I did that, the door exactly stopped right then. I went up to the door, pulled it closed, and tried to open it again, and it wouldn't open. In order to open it, the doorknob would have to turn. Then when I tried to get it to stop in that exact same point, I couldn't do it unless I physically stopped it. There was no way to do it. So once again, I had a Sissy moment. Another incident that occurred at my apartment dealing with Aunt Sissy's picture, a friend of mine came into town to do a job interview, and he stayed at my place. The next morning, whenever I was leaving to go to work, he of course slept on the couch, and he made the comment, "Could you turn the TV on for me?" And I said, okay. I turned the TV on and I left. Well, later on that afternoon, he called me and said he was never coming back to my house again, that there's strange stuff going on. When I asked him why, he said when he woke up, the television was off, but he heard a buzzing sound from the bathroom. And when he went in the bathroom, he saw my electric razor was on, and it was almost like buzzing around the sink. It was just going around, but it never would fall off. And so he grabbed it and turned it off. And that's when he called me and asked me, did you leave my razor on? I said no. And then that's when he told me that the razor was going on, there was strange stuff, and he was never coming back. And he has talked to me on the phone, but he's never come back to my apartment or here because of the picture. He says it just creeps him out. After that, a couple of years later, didn't have any other problems until I was getting ready to move. I'd purchased the townhouse that I'm currently living in, and I was moving from my apartment over to where we are today. And I had about 10 people helping me. We had 3 trucks, and we had an entire assembly line for moving. I had a couple of friends at my old apartment, a couple of people were here, and then there were 2 people in each truck. By the end of the night, we had everything ready. We were getting ready to make the last trip. I specifically gave instructions to leave all the family pictures, including Sissy's, back at the apartment, that once everything's over, I would go back and get them because I didn't want anything to happen to them. Well, the last trip, I was standing on the front steps here, and all of a sudden, every car, every truck, everybody came. My best friend got out of one of the trucks and said, there's been a Sissy moment, there's been a Sissy moment. A car pulled up, and the 2 guys that were actually at the apartment bringing stuff down to load on the truck got out, and one of the guys said, I will never walk in your house again. I'll never go again. There's been a Sissy moment. And I was trying to figure out what happened, and they kept saying, Sissy turned the lights on. Sissy turned the kitchen light on. After everything got calmed down and we got something to eat, went back over to the apartment, and literally you could tell a couple of people had left in a hurry because the front door was wide open, the kitchen light was on, and there was still things left kind of strode around, and of course Sissy's picture was still there. Over the next couple of weeks, I was talking to one of the guys that had the experience, and he finally owned up and confessed that what he and the other guy were doing is they were looking at Sissy's picture and started joking with her and telling her that David doesn't want you anymore, David's leaving you here, and you're going to be in the dark, you're going to be all shut out. And right when they said you're going to be in the dark, all shut out, the kitchen light turned on. So apparently she was letting them know that I can turn the lights on, I won't be in the dark at all. After that, every time either one of the guys happened to come over, they always stop at the bottom of the stairs and look up at the picture of Sissy and always tell her hello. Hey Sissy, how are you? And then we go sit down and do whatever. After that, there were just little incidents here and there. As far as when I was here, nothing really big. One of the things, I have a cat, and she of course has cat toys, and there was one little cat toy she always likes to play here on the landing and down the stairs. And one morning I was in the kitchen and I kept hearing that little toy go rattle, rattle, rattle. It's a catnip mouse toy, and it was just rattling everywhere, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, Emily's tearing, which is my cat, is tearing this toy apart. And it just kept going rattle, rattle, rattle. And finally I yelled out, Emily, stop it. And all of a sudden I heard meow, and Emily was sitting right beside me looking up at me, and I could still hear that cat toy rattling. When I walked around to the bottom of the stairs, the rattling stopped, and of course there was the toy, nothing was going on. And I went, okay. And I got the stuff to take the trash to the dumpster, and whenever I came back from the dumpster, I opened up the door, I walked back to the kitchen, and I started hearing the little toy go rattle, 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 and I looked down, I went, Emily, and my cat was once again at my feet going, meow, and I went, okay, little girl, you're on your own today, and I got my keys and walked out. Another incident that occurred also with my cat was I was laying across my bed one night, and she was on the floor, and I was kind of playing with her, and all of a sudden she sat up on her hind legs and reached up. And normally she does that whenever I'm coming in, and I always just kind of bend down and play with her like that, and she rubs her little paws on my hands. Well, all of a sudden she sat up on her hind legs and reached up and started doing that. And I was like, Emily? And then she sat back down again, but then again she sat back up, did her paws, and started looking over my right shoulder. And I remember making the comment to her, Emily, is Sissy over my right shoulder? And Emily meowed and stretched and sat back down. And I kind of looked over my shoulder, and there was nothing there. And when I looked back, Emily was just sitting there looking at me. and she never did that anymore after that. And normally she only does that is when someone is sitting there like playing or trying to get her attention. The only other incident that has occurred, I haven't had that many after that. My neighbors who live directly across from me on the adjoining townhouse, they have had instances in that same general area. One of the guys has told me that he woke up one morning and a little girl dressed in white was standing in the doorway of his closet. And he just kind of looked and she was gone. Another incident is he has lighters lined up on his table or dresser, and it's always funny, just the blue ones are always the ones that's knocked over. And another incident he told me that he has two Dobermans, a fawn Doberman and a regular Doberman. He let them in his bedroom one morning, and when he woke up, both of the dogs were sitting up, and were looking at the closet. And standing in the closet, he caught the glimpse of a little girl dressed in white. When he kind of blinked, the little girl was gone, and the two dogs just kind of sat back down. He's never seen the picture. His roommate has, and when he described the incidents to his roommate remembered, wait a minute, that's David's Aunt Sissy based from the picture. And they've told me about it. And my thing is, I just told him, well, I guess Sissy's bored with me, and now she wants to go visit y'all. But she only appears to that one guy, and who's the neighbor, and his bedroom is directly diagonal to this one over on that side. And she only will appear to him and only does stuff to him, so I guess she likes him. In 1865, towards the end of the Civil War, when the Northern Army was coming through southeastern North Carolina, my great-great-grandmother, Nancy Marlowe Hickman, took the Marlowe family silver, which was her family silver, and put it down the well. Of course, everybody's heard the stories about hiding silver from the Yankees in the war. However, my great-great-grandmother actually did that. What she did is she put a coffee service, tea service, trays, candlesticks, and knives and forks down an old irrigation well on the Hickman branch plantation. These are the pieces that my grandmother, Beulah Bennett, inherited from her mother when she passed away. A silver meat serving tray, 2 candelabra, a cake server, and a spoon. All through the years, these pieces of silver are always used at Christmas and Easter in the family. And, of course, over the dinner table, it's always told about how Grandma Hickman put the silver in the well to keep the Yankees from getting it during the war. And after the war, it was brought out, and it's been displayed proudly ever since.
While filming the Aunt Sissy story in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, cameraman Sherman Carmichael felt something brush against his back. When setting up to film the antique silver that had been passed down from David Bennett's ancestors, David Bennett was standing on one side of the table. I was standing on the other. The camera was being set up on yet another side, so no one was within 5 feet of this table. Part of the candelabra fell off onto the table. I made the comment, "That must be another Aunt Sissy moment." David Bennett replaced the part of the candelabra and stepped back. At that point, the part fell off again. Coincidence? Or did she just want her presence known?